Of between 10 and 12 degrees. Now you're up to date on News Talk.
Off the ball.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a dedicated call centre.
This is News Talk.
All right, how's it going? You're welcome along to Thursday's Off the Ball. Nathan with you until 10 o'clock this evening. 9 o'clock this evening. Oh, we're getting an early night. What might have been for English football. They are not going home with the World Cup. They've got a third and fourth place playoff to look forward to on Saturday against Belgium. It's France against Croatia in the World Cup final. Analysis to come tonight from John Giles at 7:30 and then around about 8:30. Pat Nevin will join us, just back in Scotland after his month over in Russia. The Super 8s, they're finally here. The Croke Park weekend, and we're going to talk to Turlough O'Brien, the Carlow manager, and Dara O'Caneja about the 4 games taking place this weekend. Kieran Cunningham, chief sports writer with the Irish Daily Star, is with us. How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
And Will O'Callaghan, how's it going?
Good.
So were you devastated when the full-time whistle blew?
I wouldn't say devastated. I wasn't gloating.
It's a lesser event without England in it.
Yeah, I would have liked England to be in the final just to see what it's like with England in the World Cup final, because even though I'm ancient, I wasn't actually born by a few months the last time they were in it. But it must be gut-wrenching for them, because in the first half they were very impressive without creating a lot of chances. Like the
Harry Kane opportunity.
Yeah, they had a couple of other chances, particularly the Keane one. If he squared it to Raheem Sterling, he just had to walk it into the net, that one, I think. And but Croatia just looked quite sluggish and lacking energy. And it's often games like that when you're so on top, the last thing you want is half time. Because it gives your opponents time to regroup, and you're just on a roll, and your momentum is broken, and they just never picked it up after that. And it just, like we saw this with Ireland. We've seen it with Ireland so many times, like when Wes Hoolahan wasn't around the midfield, that there was just no craft, nothing happening there, no guile, to use a very a favoured word of the RT panel. And you saw that with England as well. And like, there's a bizarre one, not that he brings a lot of guile, but a player. Sometimes you don't really, as Johnny Mitchell says, you don't know what you got till it's gone. But Alex Oxlade-Chamberlain, for both the Champions League final and for England, I think you saw his loss, what he would have brought. He would have given both Liverpool and England something different.
The connector who can run from a bit deeper.
Yeah, like the energy, the power.
He doesn't have the. He doesn't have the Modric style guile.
But he gets on the end of things. He gives you huge energy. He would have been very useful in closing down Modric. And I just thought they didn't have many options there. Like your option, look at the players that bring on in midfield when they don't have a spectacular midfield to start with. When you're bringing on the Eric Dyers and these fellas, are just England aren't.
What do you make of Jordan Henderson?
What do I make of Jordan Henderson?
Because
some games I think he's very good, and other games I think it's just passing him by.
Don't send a tweet about Jordan Henderson, or you will face the wrath of Liverpool supporters the world over.
But I've seen a few games that he's been absolutely outstanding. Like the first Manchester City game, I think, I thought he was really good. And I thought for a lot of last night he was quite good. But, I wouldn't pin it on him. Like, he has a specific role to do. You're looking at both Lingard and Dele Alli, and you just need something different in there. Like, England don't have a Modric, they don't have Perisic, and it makes all the difference.
It's the first good midfield they come up against in the whole tournament, realistically, with Rakitic and Modric, who could actually control against them. Like, in theory, Croatia should have tired, but they were able to use the ball in extra time a lot better than England were.
Yeah.
The strange thing for England was when you looked at them pre-tournament, so they were always light in midfield. They always had an issue in that Henderson and Dyer are very similar players. They just keep it ticking over. They're probably good at covering ground, but really they don't have the ability to put their head up and pick out players.
Well, one thing that's very stark is how many chances in open play did Harry Kane have in the entire World Cup? Like, he was depending on penalties and corner set pieces for his goals. And that shows the impact, the influence of Christian Eriksen, for example, at Tottenham, that there's nobody, that England don't have anybody like that to set him up. And because I saw, there was a bit of, you get hindsight bias coming in, that a few people are suddenly saying, no, Harry Kane's a bit overrated, he's not really world class. But if you don't get the ball, it's very hard for strikers, and the midfield is simply not delivering much to the front men. Raheem Sterling overall had a good World Cup, but he'd one shot on target in all the games.
He worked hard.
And that's an issue. He worked hard.
It was his runs off the ball.
Yeah, but you do look at what he managed to score for Manchester City last season. He really upped his strike rate, and that shows the impact of the City midfield. That De Bruyne, etc., behind him, David Silva, and that England, you do need service.
It felt when you looked at them pre-tournament that they were sort of lopsided, that they'd so much attacking talent that if they just had a solid enough base at the back, the attacking talent would take over. But it actually sort of flipped them, because defensively, their best players over the course of the tournament seemed to be Trippier, Stones, Maguire. And that front 4 or 5, they massively lacked that link-up player.
And even last night, that was something I thought was particularly cruel about last night, is Stones overall was really, really good, but he was badly at fault for the winning goal. Trippier was really good, and he's arguably been their best player in the entire tournament. But he was his direct opponent was Perisic, who was man of the match, and even Pickford, who I thought had a fine tournament. He just was too. He's a really good distributor of the ball, but he was too inclined to go long. I know they were trying to get Sterling in behind, or Rashford when he came on, and that they just didn't mix it. He didn't mix it up enough, and that even their key players, they kind of went against them in the end. And also, I think it exposed Southgate a bit. Southgate has rightly got a huge amount of praise, but when they were up against it, what did he do? How did he react? That's the test of a coach.
He made the obvious substitutions.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And didn't change the system.
Yeah, they were kind of he made the substitutions he always makes, which is always a bad sign of a manager. It's like, I'll bring on Eric Dyer at a certain period, blah, blah, blah.
For Jordan Henderson.
To bring Rashford will come on at a certain time. So I didn't see him do anything that in any way changed the game.
That's in stark contrast to what I heard on ITV News afterwards, where they described Gareth Southgate as a philosopher, a warrior, a hero on the verge of becoming a legend.
That was Roy, was it?
No, this was the ITV News. I know. Let's listen to Roy, actually. So Roy was on ITV's panel coverage afterwards with Gary Neville, Lee Dixon and Ian Wright, and Roy enjoyed his moment.
Before the game and yesterday and today, we're talking about England, the whole talk about the final, the final, France, can they play? Yeah, and I know May made a point a few weeks ago, a bit tongue-in-cheek with the players, but you're going, you have to focus just on one game, and everyone was talking about the final.
What are you talking about?
The football's coming home. Go on, do your impression. Right.
We wasn't talking about the final like that. We were just having a laugh with you. The fact is, we were trying to we were happy. Yeah. You weren't happy for us being happy at that time. But I think that we were...
I don't mind you being happy, but you're like getting carried away. And I was right. You were planning the final, where the parades were.
No, we weren't.
You were talking about you did a reality check.
No, we were. Why should we get excited about it? It was something...
Yeah, get excited. Listen, get excited when they get to the final. No, but this was the semi-final, the group matches.
People didn't even expect us to get to the semi-final. What can we be excited about being in there?
Just take one game as a
before the game, everybody was thinking that we'd beat Croatia. Before the game,
about the final.
Yeah, but everybody thought that we'd beat Croatia before the game. Why should I be excited about that?
You know how hard it is to get to these big finals, or even get to a World Cup. You're talking about finals.
Final?
You know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Relax yourself.
He's going to cane me again.
No, but listen, but the really good thing is, because we all know, and you've all played the game, I'm not interested in international football, they're not interested in international football. International football is alive and thriving. And that is great. And they are not mutually exclusive. You can love Manchester United and love England and love Peterborough and love Wales. You know what I'm saying? They can
for the last 5, 10, 15 years, people go, the international breaks here, the Premier League has stopped. That's been the attitude in our country. Yeah, it's been absolutely the attitude, and maybe this tournament has just given everybody a little bit of a lift of how important the national team can be to the whole country.
Yes. If nothing else, you can love the both at the same time.
Both, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Love England more when they're playing.
And reaching a semi-final.
Absolutely, which is an unbelievable achievement for this lot.
Well, this reminds me of, there's a famous story of, I think, 20 years after the end of World War II, they found a Japanese soldier in either the jungles of Burma or Borneo or something, but he was still fighting the war. He thought the war was still going on. And Roy Keane has been fighting this war for a long, long time, fighting the war against what he sees as the culture of mediocrity or over-celebrating things that aren't really achievements. That if you go back to... Remember, he had to go with the Ireland fans, Euro 2012. He's very unimpressed with the praise they got for singing all through the hammering by Spain in the last 20 minutes. If you go back to the amount of times he called out United and their fans when they would go out of the Champions League.
Thierry Henry at the morning after the handball.
Yes, Thierry Henry in 2000 famously, I remember I'd been in that mix zone in the tunnel in Amsterdam Arena when Ireland had been 2-0 up and ended up drawn 2-2 in a World Cup qualifier. And at the final whistle, Mick McCarthy ran onto the field, punching the air, celebrating. And Roy Keane was going ballistic, and he said, we have to give ourselves credit, you know, we're sick of this, the good old Irish, we're going to have a party. And, you know, we got a result, but the game was there for the taking, we blew it. And it's a very black and white world he lives in, and it's never going to change.
Well, what's he been critical of there? Because it feels as though he's saying you shouldn't celebrate getting to a semi-final.
Yeah.
Or is he saying, actually, you were too arrogant, you took Croatia for granted, you were looking ahead to a final before you got there, which I think is a fair criticism.
I don't think he even would, you know, from what he's saying there, he said, okay, celebrate when you get to a final, but I don't think in reality he thinks that.
He would have been critical saying you were celebrating for getting to the final.
Yeah, he has a Trumpian view of the world that only winners matter. So he would only, like you look at... you know, he has come out with stuff over the years about, like, basically show me your medals. If you don't have the medals and you've won, you don't matter to Roy. And
but it's nonsense. You're allowed to enjoy the journey.
But you can look
What's the point otherwise?
Look, there's brilliant photographs from the Euro 2016. Is it? I'm not sure which goal it is, but Roy is jumping. He looks jumped about 3 feet off the air, punching the air. I don't know if it was after Robbie Brady scored against Italy or one of the other goals and that, but. Like, you see some of his celebrations with Martin O'Neill and Jean-Luc Buffon after Ireland beat Italy, and that was just in a group phase game. Yeah, group game. So he knows to enjoy the journey as well. Sometimes you see the little smile at the side of his, you know he's enjoying it. You know he's playing it up.
Showbiz, baby. It's showbiz.
Like even Gary Neville said at one stage there, do your impression. He said to Ian Wright. So obviously this has been something on there that Ian Wright impersonates Roy's accent, and then he did it at the end, which annoyed some people. But I think it's something, like, by all accounts, Ian Wright, a really decent fellow. A lot of people really like him, and I get the impression Roy does.
Well, I was suggesting that much like when Roy turned up at the hurling final about 3 years ago with Adrian Childs, and everyone went, "What? No, Roy hates Adrian Childs. Of course he hates Adrian Childs. How could he put up with this man who knows nothing about football?"
Yeah.
And it's that, no, actually, Roy finds Adrian Childs perfectly good company,
but,
as I'd imagine he finds Ian Wright perfectly good company.
Like, he's a mass of contradictions. Like, he's often been very critical of pundits and punditry over the years, but he didn't have to go to Russia for the last 5-6 weeks, but he seems very happy to have done so.
He flew back out. He went home for a couple of weeks and he flew back out for the game last night.
Yeah, like, he's got a full-time job that's a very well-paid job. He doesn't have to do it, but he enjoys it.
53106 is the text number. You can get in touch on all our social channels as well. The news round brought to you this evening with screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products. Lads, thanks be to God, England are gone. Great to see the glum faces. I hate Keane for Saipan. Fair play to him for telling it straight to ITV and England last night. Up Mayo, says Castlebar Pat. And Kerry hot out of the blocks tonight. A couple of texts in from the Kingdom already. Should Ireland be worried over the future of Declan Rice? A ball-playing midfielder comfortable sitting in front of the back three is exactly what England needs, says Mike and Kerry.
Well, I don't think we should be worried, but I think he would. He's going to be a big loss to England. I think he's going to be a quality player. Football is coming home to France. After all, it was a Frenchman that founded the World Cup, says James and Kerry.
Did you hear what Charluka said coming through the mix zone last night? They all knew he spoke English, so the English media went to stop him as he was going past. Apparently he stopped for a moment. He goes, "Football's not coming home," and then he just walked away. Yeah, because I think actually because Modric came out and hit out of the arrogance of what he's called the arrogance of the English media. But to be honest, I think this shows the power of social media. I don't think the Croatian players were reading English papers or looking at clips of English TV, but they would see on Twitter, etc. They would still see the hashtag "football's coming home." This was going to come into their feeds. And Twitter and Instagram, etc. So I think that's what he was reacting to rather than anything.
There was nobody saying Luka Modric wasn't a very good player.
No, definitely.
Geez, lads, does Off the Ball have its own kitchenware department? I'm watching on Facebook and I can count an Off the Ball mug, an Off the Ball gym bottle thing, and an Off the Ball travel coffee mug on your studio desk. Where can I get my hands on this sweet, sweet branded merchandise? Says Barry and Kells. Are we giving away any of this sweet, sweet branded merchandise? No, JP says, not right now. Maybe for comment of the day, I think we literally only have 3 cups is the slight problem. we're the only company in the world that ordered these in from China, and they cost us 30 quid a pop instead of just going for the mass production element. So unfortunately, we don't have any more cups to give away just yet. But JP might find something nice out for you from Barry and Kells. Lads, I think Croatia deserve to go through, but why are people talking like they were vastly better than England in this tournament? Scrape past Denmark and Russia, needed extra time to beat a supposedly poor England. So just how easy was their path? In the England game, Croatia were outplayed and lucky not to be 2 down at half-time, says the drummer.
Yeah, but the nature of tournament football is, like a lot of people made great play of England's roots, but if you go through teams that have gone to finals over the years, there's quite a few that you would say in theory
Germany,
are
2002.
kind. Yeah. And the nature of international football anyway is that there aren't that many superstar teams there or have ever been there. Like even you go back to the France team of 20 years ago, their lone striker was Stefan Givarch, who scored 1 goal for France in his career. He was their striker. Like 4 years ago, Stefan Kramer started for Germany. Andre Schürrle came on, played regularly for them. They weren't superstars. Like, can anybody name the Spain left back from 2010?
Capdeville.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The only player that didn't play for Barcelona or Real Madrid in his career, and he was not saying a journeyman, but he's a guy most people would forget, except Will knows everything. But you don't need a team of superstars.
And nobody's blown anyone away in the knockout stages so far. Like France got to that final winning by the odd goal in their games as well.
All right, we are going to get into the news round, but first we're going to talk to Maura Trassa-Nicali, who's in Tallaght Stadium watching Shamrock Rovers in the Europa League. What's the latest, Maura Trassa?
Yeah, things kicked off here around 15 minutes ago, and already we've seen an early goal chance for Rovers as the ball was lobbed into Daniel Carr. He just wasn't able to get himself into the right position and to catch it the right way to flick it into the net, and the AIK keeper dealt with it. The other big talking point, I suppose, is that 16-year-old shot stopper Gavin Bazzuno is in goal again for Shamrock Rovers tonight, and Dylan Watts, who officially came on board last Saturday, he gets his first start, and he already has also made a really good effort a few minutes ago, enough to make people here shout. Now, I suppose it's important to say it's not an easy draw by any means. It's just so far AIK seem to be really cautious.
All right, good stuff. Thanks for that, Maura Trassa. More to come from Tallaght Stadium throughout the evening. But enough of this World Cup nonsense. I just want to get back to the Premier League. I want to get back to the stuff that really matters, the soap opera, the drama, to Chelsea.
Yeah, well, Antonio Conte's time as Chelsea manager should be over probably by tonight. It's coming to an end, according to reports today that he's been sacked. The Premier League club have refused to comment, but perhaps tellingly in the last hour or so, Cesc Fabregas tweeted to wish him well. Thibaut Courtois last night as well said his future at Chelsea depends on the new manager. So the players are obviously quite aware of what the situation is.
Yeah, so it looks as though Maurizio Sarri, the former Napoli manager, it's done and dusted. It feels as though it's going to be a huge summer of change at Chelsea.
Yeah.
Most definitely going, it seems, are Fabregas. Courtois looks likely to leave. Willian possibly leaving. And then there's Eden Hazard in the mix as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's amazing. Sarri will be the 13th manager since Abramovich bought the club 15 years ago. 13 managers in 15 years. And there is a pattern there with a lot of them that the first season they do well, second season, whether it's interference or however you want to describe it, but things
they don't seem to invest when things are going well. They wait. So Sarri will come in, he'll be given a load of money, they'll do well, and then instead of kicking on another gear like Manchester City are trying to do, they'll go, well, actually that team was good enough last season, should be good enough this season.
And they don't seem to want the manager to have the power is the thing as well. That it's not the manager who makes the calls and transfers, which really bugged Conte and Mourinho before him.
We should mention as well Dundalk going well.
Yeah, really good result for them. They have to come through a couple more rounds to qualify for the Europa League, but they've given themselves a very strong chance of getting into the second qualifying round. Dylan Connolly got the only goal of the game. The SSE Electricity League leaders 1-0 victory away to Levadia Tallinn in Estonia, so they'll take that 1-0 lead back to Dundalk next week. Derry City are 1-0 down, but midway through the second half against Dynamo Minsk at the Brandywell, and as mentioned by Maura Trassa, Shamrock Rovers are at home to AIK Stockholm, where it's scoreless after about 20 minutes.
All right, a couple of other lines from the Premier League.
Fulham have confirmed the signing of midfielder Jean-Michel Seri from the French side Nice. The Ivory Coast international joins the newly promoted Premier League club on what's a 4-year contract, an undisclosed fee. He had been heavily linked with Chelsea. Newcastle have completed the loan signing of Kennedy from their fellow Premier League side Chelsea as well. The Brazilian returns to St James's Park on a deal until the end of the season. He spent the second half of last year at Newcastle. Blow for West Ham as well. Double injury setback, perhaps not surprising. The next word is Andy Carroll injured. He's out until potentially Christmas. And Winston Reid is out for at least 3 months as well.
Bloody hell. Dan Martin we must get to. Two-time stage winner at the Tour de France.
5 years between them. He's won today's 6th stage of cycling's Tour de France, made a break in the last kilometre or so into Mur de Bretagne to register his first stage victory at the event since he won in the Pyrenees in 2013. The Team Emirates rider has closed the gap now in the leader, Greg van Avermaet, by 13 seconds, and he's up to 21st place overall. Martin's wife is also heavily pregnant at the moment, and he says she was foremost in his thoughts after crossing the finish line.
My first thought is that I really hope my wife hasn't just gone into labour. You know, it's a great feeling to actually get a win again. So many second places at the Tour since the last one, and Also, I was a bit nervous because of the headwind. I didn't think it was going to happen, you know, but then the race went so hard up the first part of the climb that I saw everybody's on the limit, and there's no teammates left, so why not have a try? So I did.
And you took off very early, and you managed to resist.
The legs just were there all the time, you know. I just don't know, maybe adrenaline or what, but yeah, I felt really, really good yesterday, and didn't quite get an opening in the final to be able to have a go, but it was that was a good sign for today, and I was really relaxed all day, really not confident, but just looking forward to having a crack.
Sean and Sligo will be happy. We won a stage in the Tour de France today. Any chance you might mention this? There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
I knew you'd get texts like that, to be honest. But it is telling, though, that we started off talking about England losing tonight when an Irish rider has won a stage Tour de France. And for many, many years, that would have been, that would have been top in any sports bulletin. But I think it's just a reflection of where the sport is, and people have a very jaundiced view of it now, and there's no getting away from that. So
Stephen Roach, Sean Kelly, the only other Irish riders to win multiple stages at the Tour de France. That's the level that Dan Martin is competing at, and listen, it's getting its mention.
He's won a Vuelta stage as well. Like he's competed.
Has he a chance of winning it?
He won't win the Tour de France, no. But I think this sets his team up quite nicely. I think for. Like getting a stage victory is what they would have been targeting since his move as well. Like he's had a lot of second places in stages previously. To get one again, obviously is a huge boost for him. And like he's a decent climber, he's a good sprinter. Maybe he can target another stage further down the line as well.
So Wimbledon women's semi-finals day.
Yes, Serena Williams into her 10th Wimbledon singles final. The 7-time champion has beaten Ulia Gurges 6-2, 6-4 to set up a decider against Angelique Kerber. It's a repeat of the 2016 final. Kerber was the straight sets winner over Elena Ostapenko less than a year since Williams gave birth to her daughter. And realistically, Nathan, we had two very one-sided semi-finals there. But it'll be interesting to see whether Kerber, who got hammered by Williams 2 years ago, will be a bit closer on Saturday.
Yeah, so we've got a minute left. What's the other main story as well?
Gina Akpom-Moses will line up in the 100 metres final at the World Under-20s Athletics Championships in the next few minutes. The European gold medal winner booked her place in the final by placing third in her semi, 11.51 seconds, progressing as one of the fastest losers. Ciara Neville was fifth in her semi-final, while Aaron Sexton, who ran a personal best this morning, was fifth in his 200 metre semi-final. Wicklow's Paul Dundas finished poorly on the first day of the Scottish Open. He was 5 under as we came on air, but he double bogeyed the last to slip back to 3 under par. He's 3 shots now off the clubhouse lead, which is held by Scott Fernandez, Jens Dantrup, Robert Rock and the world number 7 Ricky Fowler. Of the rest of the Irish, Graham McDowell 1 under after his opening round. Darren Clark finished 1 over, with Padraig Harrington 3 over par.
And the good news, Will, is Golf Weekly is up online right now, offtheball.com. Check it out. Conor Deegan was in with us today, who I know you're going to be featuring in the paper this weekend as well, Kieran, on his footballing exploits, but a pretty good golfer as well, so you can check that out. And also, if you were watching the England game last night, you may have missed some of the good stuff that was on the show. Cliona Foley was on talking about the brilliant success that Irish athletics is going through at the moment. That podcast is available right now on offtheball.com. And hello to Mark Bennett, a Scotsman watching on Facebook Live. Good to see the Irish giving it to the English. Love from Glasgow. I think we're being very fair.
Yeah,
Maybe he's referring to Roy.
Yeah, possibly.
Quite possibly. Kieran, thanks a lot as always for coming to the studio. Will be along for the evening, keeping an eye on any of the live sport that's happening. But up next, we're talking to John Giles.
Off the ball on News Talk.
Thanks to Screwfix.ie, championing the trade with a choice of over 20,000 quality trade products.
We hear about this a lot, that we have a lack of substitute teachers, we can't get cover, the class numbers are growing. Where does the problem actually lie?
Well, you certainly hear about it a lot, and many of your listeners hear about it a lot, but the Minister, the one person who can do something about it, doesn't seem to be listening.
Hear the full lunch